Well, welcome back to Friendly Free Thinker, and if you haven't been here before, welcome. What I do in these Substacks quite often is I share some thoughts that have come from my readings, from my classes, from things I've thought about in my writings, because I write these weekly columns for USA Today and the network, and also for the Black Belt News in Alabama. So when I'm writing these things, I often am drawing, of course, from things that I've heard or thought about, things that people write to me. I'm always happy to try to respond when people write, contact me somehow. So this last class I just taught, just ended this week, was on Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. So we had a pretty good class, 6 weeks here in the summer. It was good. It was great. Good engagement. And particularly in one class, I think was very meaningful. At least I found it so. And it was on the Stoic view of death and the way Marcus handled that, some of the images and the frameworks that he put around this sense of what we call death. So I wrote this column because I write for these religion pages, and so I want to really kind of engage this in a way that presents a Stoic view that I think is an interesting alternative to a lot of religious teachings. So here we go. This particular column, I'm giving you a sneak peek, by the way. This column is called Lessons on Life and Death from Marcus Aurelius. Here we go. One of the more meaningful discussions in my class on Marcus Aurelius concerned the Stoic concept of death, a lively conversation on death. Well, Marcus was a Roman emperor who died in the year 180, never quite reaching his personal goal to become a philosopher. Yet his pursuit of wisdom was doing philosophy, which is about all we can do. Reading his private journal, known as the Meditations, after some 1800 years, brings us face to face with some uncomfortable facts of life, such as life is short and we all die. The emperor, who would be a sage, presented a particular perspective on death that many religious believers may find both disturbing and intriguing, depending on openness of mind. Now, to be clear, Emperor Aurelius believed in gods, honoring one deity in particular, Zeus. However, a close reading of his journal reveals some startling ideas. Every person shares, he says, a fragment of divinity. And he says, the fragment of himself which Zeus has given to each person. So the Greek high god Zeus can be seen as the human face or a human face that the Greeks and the Romans placed on nature, and what the Stoics called logos, or reason. The universe, the cosmos, is ordered by logos, and we're born with our own tiny part of logos, and, quote, in each of us, this divinity is our mind and reason. Therefore, he says, revere the ultimate power in the universe, but similarly, the ultimate power in yourself. Okay, how does the concept of death fit with this worldview? It's quite literally creative. He says, universal nature uses the substance of the universe like wax, making a horse, then melting that down, using its material for a tree, next for a human being, next for something else. Each one of these lives for only the briefest time. So we're made of all the elements common to the universe. So these form each of us for a time. then those elements are refashioned naturally to form something else. Marcus reasons, what dies does not pass out of the universe. It remains here and is changed. Well, did the Stoics imagine an afterlife? Well, as curious observers of the natural world, they didn't know, but they wondered. Yet, they weren't distracted, not distracted by some other world, when this one is all they could live in. And life can only be lived in the present moment, something that Marcus often repeats to remind himself, I think, of the shortness of life. Well, the popular view, as you know, of being Stoic is not true Stoicism. A Stoic is not detached and unfeeling, not a Mr. Spock from Star Trek, or a kind of heartless machine. One who practices the Stoic way is also not a selfish person and might be religious or not. Stoics are concerned with seeking to be good and virtuous, but not only for themselves. To be virtuous is to be good to others and make the world better for all. Now, as the supreme Roman ruler and military commander, Marcus certainly fell short of that ideal. I like to think Stoics didn't really believe in death, at least as we often view death. There's no true end to the elements of our bodies and brains. The waxy elements we're made of, that all things are made of, continue in the natural cycle of transformation. We don't go somewhere when we experience disillusion, another one of their words, and we don't pass into another reality. Our breath, our pneuma, as they called it, our breath exhales into the surrounding air that first gave us life. There's no place to go, no city in the sky or dark underworld. Well, what about the soul? Well, that's the word often used to translate the Greek term psyche, the self, our mind, our inner being. Since the psyche is a fragment of the whole, of nature, it's part of the substance, the material that makes up all things. As I said, it can't go anywhere because the elements never die. What may bother some people about the Stoic understanding of life and death is that it essentially teaches that we aren't all that special or unique or exceptional. There's no superior human wax, but there's something that in a sense sets us apart from everything else in their minds, our ability to reason. If we're guided by our ruling mind or our directing mind, he says sometimes, we won't merely be in our heads. We'll seek the main Stoic virtues. What are those? Wisdom, courage, self-control, and justice. Marcus even writes that the qualities of a rational mind are, and I'm quoting, love of neighbor, truthfulness, and integrity. Those are qualities of the rational mind. Love of neighbor, truthfulness, integrity. When we think more wisely, we act more humanely. Stoicism and representatives like Marcus Aurelius may also upset some religious believers who are troubled by the idea that God can be called Zeus, as well as nature, or the universal rational principle, logos. Yet, it is natural to name the great unknown something and even put our face on it. But that doesn't change it. It may change us. All right, so that's the column that I'm going to be sending in. I'll probably edit a little bit, but that's you're getting the first hearing of it. And I'm interested in what you think about this too. It's obviously a timeless subject. And I think the Stoics offer something that few other philosophies or religions really offer, with these beautiful images of what happens to us that is not death. It's a new form of existence. And maybe that's comforting in a way. Let me know what you think. All right, take care.